Listening Section 4 For Business Values. In public discussion of business, we take certain values for granted. Today, I am going to talk about four of them: collaboration, hard work, creativity, and excellence. Most people would say they are all good things. I'm going to suggest that that's an oversimple view. The trouble with these values is that they are theoretical concepts uh, removed from the reality of day to day business. Pursue values by all means, but be prepared for what may happen as a result. They can actually cause damage, which is not at all the intention. Business leaders generally try to do the right thing, but all too often the right thing backfires if those leaders adopt values without understanding and managing the side effects that arise. The values can easily get in the way of what is actually intended. Okay, so the first value I am going to discuss is collaboration. Let me give you an example. A management training course I once attended, we were put into groups and had to construct a bridge across a stream using building blocks that we were given. The rule was that everyone in the team had to move at least one building block during the construction. This was intended to encourage teamwork, but it was really a job best done by one person. The other teams tried to collaborate on building the structure and descended into confusion, with everyone getting each other's way. Our team leader solved the challenge brilliantly. She simply asked everyone in the team to move a piece a few centimeters to comply with the rule, and then let the person in the team with an aptitude for puzzles like this build it along. We finished before any other team. My point is that the task wasn't really suited to team working, so why make it one? Teamwork Teamwork can also lead to inconsistency, a common cause of poor sales. In the case of a smartphone that a certain company launched, one director wanted to target business market, and another demanded it was aimed to consumers. The company wanted both directors to be involved, so gave the product a consumer-friendly name, but marketed it to companies. The result was that it met the needs of neither group. It would have better to let one director or the other have this way, not both. Now, industriousness or hard work. It's easy to mock people who say they work hard. After all, a hamster running around in a wheel is working hard and getting nowhere. Of course, hard work is valuable, but only when properly targeted. Otherwise, it wastes the resources that companies value most: time and energy, and that's bad for the organization. There's a management model that groups people according to four criteria: clever, hardworking, stupid, and lazy. Here, lazy means having a rational determination not to carry out unnecessary tasks. It doesn't mean trying to avoid work altogether. Most people display two of these characteristics, and the most valuable people are those who are both clever and lazy. They possess intellectual clarity and they don't rush into making decisions. They come up with solutions to save the time and energy spent by the stupid and hardworking group. Instead of throwing more man-hours at a problem, the clever and lazy group looks for a more effective solution. Next, we come to creativity. This often works well creating an intention-grabbing TV commercial, for example, might lead to increased sales, but it isn't always a good thing. Um, Some advertising campaigns are remembered for their creativity without having any effect on sales. This happened a few years ago with the launch of a chocolate bar. Subsequent research showed that plenty of consumers remember the adverts but had no idea what was being advertised. Troubles is that the creator derives pleasure from coming up um, creator derives pleasure from um, coming up with the idea and assumes the audience for the campaign will share that feeling. The troubles is that the creator derives pleasure um, derive pleasure from coming up with the idea, derives pleasure from coming up with the idea. Uh, the trouble is that the creator derives pleasure from creator derives pleasure from coming up with the idea. A company that brings out thousands of new products may seem more creative than a company that only has a few, but it may be too creative and make smaller profits. A company that brings out thousands of new a company that brings out thousands of new products may seem more creative than a company that only has a few, but it may be too creative and make smaller profits. Creativity needs to be targeted to solve a problem that the company has identified. Just coming up with more and more novel products isn't necessarily a good thing. A company that brings out thousands of new products um, a company that brings out thousands of new products may seem more creative than a company that only has a few, but it may be too creative and make smaller profits. Creativity needs to be targeted to solve a problem that the company has identified. Just coming up with more and more novel products isn't necessarily a good thing. A company that brings out dozens of new products may seem more creative than a company that only has a few, but it may be too creative and make smaller profits. Creativity needs to be targeted to solve problems that the company has identified. Just coming up with more and more novel products isn't necessarily a good thing. And finally, excellence. We all know companies that claim they strive for excellence, but it takes a long time to achieve excellence. In business, being first with a product is more profitable than having the best product. A major study of company performance compared pioneers, that is, companies bringing out the first version of a particular product with followers. The companies that copied and improved on that product. The study found that the pioneers commanded an average market share of 29%, while the followers achieved less than half that, only 13%, even though their product might have been better. Insisting on excellence in everything we do is time consuming, wastes energy, and leads to losing out on opportunities. Sometimes a second rate work is more worthwhile than excellence. Make sure it's excellent sounds like a good approach to business, but the just get started approach is likely to be more successful. Section 3. Section 3. Paper on public libraries. Okay, Stuart, we need to start planning our paper on public libraries. Have you thought of an angle yet? Well, there's so much we could look into. How libraries have changed over the centuries, for instance, or how different countries organize them. What do you think, Judy? Maybe we should concentrate on this country and try and relate the changes in libraries to external developments. Maybe we should concentrate on this country and try and relate the change in libraries um, to external external developments. Relate change in libraries to external developments, like the fact that far more people can read than centuries ago, and that the local population may speak lots of different languages. We could include something about changes in the source of funding too. Uh, yes, but remember, we are only supposed to write a short paper, so it's probably best if we don't go into funding in any detail. Right. Well, shall we just brainstorm a few ideas to get started? Okay, we obviously need to look at the impact of new technology, particularly the internet. Now that lots of books have been digitalized, people can access them from their own computers at home. People can access them from their own computers at home. And if everyone did that, libraries would be obsolete. Yes, but the digitalized books that are available online for free are mostly out of copyright, aren't they? And copyright in this country lasts for 70 years after the author dies. So you won't find the latest bestseller or up-to-date information. That's an important point. Anyway, I find it hard to concentrate when I'm reading a long text on a screen. I'd much rather read a physical book and takes longer to read on screen. Oh, I prefer it. I suppose it's just a personal preference. I expected that libraries will go on evolving in the next few years. Some have already become centers where community activities take place, like local clubs meeting there. I think that will become even more common. I like to think so, and that they will still be serving their traditional function, but I'm not so sure. There are financial implications. After all, what I'm afraid will happen is that books and magazines will all disappear, and there will just be rows and rows of computers. They won't look anything like libraries we're used to. Well, we'll see. I've I've had I've just had an idea. Why don't we make an in-depth study of our local public library as background to our paper? Yes, that'd be interesting and raise all sorts of issues. Mm, let's make a list of possible things we could ask about, then work out some sort of structure. For instance, we could interview some of the staff and find out whether the library has its own budget, and or if that's controlled by the local council, and what their policies are. I know they don't allow food, but I love to find out what types of noise they ban there. Always seems to be a lot of talking, but never music. I don't know if that's a policy or it just happens. I've often wondered. Then there are things like how the library is affected by employment laws. Mm, I suppose there are rules about working hours, facilities for staff, and so on, right? Then there are other issues relating to design of the building and how customers use it. Like what measures does the library take to ensure their safety? They need floor coverings that that aren't slippery and emergency exits, for instance. Oh, and another thing, there's the question of the kind of insurance the library needs to have, um, in case anyone gets injured. Yes, that's something else to find out. You know, something I've often wondered. What's that? Well, they've got an archive of local newspapers going back years. Well, next to it, they've got the diary of a well-known politician from the late 19th century. I wonder why it's there. Do you know what his connection was with this area? No idea. Let's add it to our list of things to find out. Oh, I've just thought, people might ask in the library about local organizations like sports clubs. Well, I wonder if they keep a database or whether they just look online. Right. I quite fancy finding out what the differences are between a library that's open to the public and one that's part of a museum. For example, they must be very different. Then something else I'd like to know is Section 2. Talk to new kitchen assistants. Good morning, everyone. My name is Roy Parkins. and I'm the restaurant manager. And I understand that none of you've had any previous experience as kitchen assistants. Well, you might be feeling a bit nervous now, but most of our kitchen assistants say they enjoy the work. Okay, they might get shorted at something, but it's nothing personal, and they are pleased that they have so many different things to do, which means they never get bored. And I will tell you straight away that if you do well, we might think about moving you up and giving you some more responsibility. Right. Well, you were all shown up on time, which is excellent start. Now I'm glad to see none of you have unsuitable footwear. So that's good. You need to be careful as the floors can get very wet and slippery. Those of you with long hair have gotten well out of the way, but some of you will need to remove your rings and bracelets. Just put them somewhere safe for today and remember to leave them at home tomorrow, and they can be a safety hazard. Now it's going to be a busy day for you all today. We don't have any tables free for this evening and only a few for lunch. Fortunately, we've got our head chef back. He was away on holiday all last week, which meant the other chefs had extra work. Now, I will tell you a bit more about the job in a minute, but first, some general regulations. For all of you, whatever your age, there's some equipment you mustn't use until you've been properly trained, like the waste disposal system, for example, for health and safety reasons. Now, I think there are two of you here who are under 18. That's Emma and Jake, isn't it? Right, so for you two, the meat slicer is out of bounds. And of course, none of you are allowed to use an electric mixer until you are being shown how it works. Out of bounds means 越界的、禁止入内的、界外的 out of bounds. Um, Now, you may have heard that this can be a stressful job, and I have to say that can be true. You will be working an 8-hour day for the first week, though you will have the chance to do overtime after that as well if you want to. But however, long the hours are, you'll get break in the middle. What you will find is that you are on your feet all day long, lifting and carrying. So if you are not fit now, you soon will be. You will find you don't have much chance to take it easy. When someone tells you to do something, you need to do it straight away. But at least we do have a very efficient air conditioning system compared with some kitchens. Now let me tell you about some of the people you need to know. So as I said, I'm George Parkins, and I decide who does what during the day and how long they work for. I'll be trying to get you to work with as many different people in the kitchen as possible so that you learn while you're on the job. One person whose name you must remember is David Field. If you injure yourself at all, even if it's really minor, you must report to him and he will make sure the incident is recorded and you get appropriate treatment. He's trained to give basic treatment to staff himself, or he was sent off somewhere else if necessary. Then there's Dexter Wales. He's the person you need to see if you smash a plate or something like that. Don't just leave it and hope no one will notice. It's really important to get things noted and replaced, or there could be problems later. And finally, there's Mike Smith. He's a member of staff who takes care of all the stores of perishable, perishables. So if you notice we are getting low in flour or sugar or something, make sure you let him know so he can put in an order. Section 1.
Cambridge.
Family excursions. Hi, can I help you? I'd like to find out if you have any excursion suitable for families. Sure, how about taking your family for a cruise? We have a steamship that takes passengers out several times a day. It's over 100 years old. That sounds interesting. How long is the trip? About 1 hour and a half. And don't forget to take pictures of the mountains. They are all around you when you are on the boat, and they look fantastic. Okay, and I sure there's a cafe or something on board. Sure. How old are your children? My daughter's 15 and my son's 7. Right. Well, there are various things you can do once you cross the lake to make a day of it. One thing that's very popular is a visit to the country farm. You are met off the boat by the farmer, and he will take you to the holding pens where the sheep are kept. Children love feeding them. My son would love that. He really likes animals. Well, there's also a 14-minute trek around the farm on a horse if he wants. Do you think he'd manage it? He hasn't done that before. Sure, it's suitable for complete beginners. Oh good. And again, visitors are welcome to explore the farm on their own as long as they take care to close the gates and so on. There are some very beautiful gardens along the side of the lake, which also belongs to the farm. They will be just at their best now. You could easily spend an hour or two there. Okay, well, that all sounds good. And can we get lunch there? You can, and it's very good, though it's not included in the basic cost. You pay when you get there. Right. So, is there anything else to do over that side of lake? Well, what you can do is take a bike over on the ship and then go on cycling trip. There's a trail there called the Back Road. You could easily spend 3 or 4 hours exploring it, and the scenery is powerful. They will give you a map when you get your ticket for the cruise. There's no extra charge. What's the trail like in terms of difficulty? Quite challenging in places. It wouldn't be suitable for your 7-year-old. It needs someone who's got a bit more experience. Well, my daughter loves cycling and so do I. So maybe the two of us could go and the wife and son could stay on the farm. That might work out quite well, but we don't have bikes here. Is there somewhere we could rent them? Yes, there's a place here in the city. It's called Retchensons. I will just make a note of that. How to spell it? It's just by the cruise ship terminal. Okay. You'd also need to pick up a repaired kit for the bike from there to take along with you, and you'd need to take along a snack and some water. If we, it'd be best, it'd be best to get those in the kitchen.
It'd be best to get those.
It'd be best to get those in the kitchen in the city. It'd be best to get those in the city. Fine, that shouldn't be a problem. And I assume I can rent a helmet from the bike place. Sure, you should definitely get that. It's a great ride, but you want to be well prepared because it's very remote. You won't see any shops around there or anywhere to stay, so you need to get back in time for the last boat. Yeah. So what sort of prices are we looking at here? Let's see. That be one dot and one child for cruise with farm tour at $170, and adult and a child for the cruise only, so that's $214 altogether. Oh, wait a minute. How old did you say your daughter was? 15. Then I'm afraid it's 267 because she has to pay the adult fare, which is 75 instead of the child fare, which is $22. Sorry about that. Reading. Passage 1. Cork. The thick bark of the cork oak tree. It's a remarkable material. It's tough, elastic, buoyant, and fire resistant. It's suitable for a wide range of purposes. It, uh, it has also been used for millennia. The ancient Egyptians sealed their sarcophag stone coffins with cork, while the ancient Greeks and Romans used it for anything from beehives to sandals. The cork oak itself is an extraordinary tree. Its bark grows up to 20 centimeters in thickness, insulating the tree like a coat wrapped around the trunk and branches, and keeping the inside at a constant 20 degrees Celsius all year round. Developed most probably um, as a defense against the forest fires. Um, the bark of the cork oak has a particular cellular structure with about 40 million cells per cubic centimeter. That technology has never succeeded in replicating. Cells are filled with air, which is why cork is so buoyant. It also has an elasticity that means you can squash it and watch it spring back to its original size and shape when you release the pressure. Cork oaks grow in a number of Mediterranean countries, including Portugal, Spain, Portugal,
Portugal. Portugal.
Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, and Morocco. They flourish in warm, sunny climates where there is a minimum of 400 millimeters of rain per year and no more than 800 millimeters. Like grape vines, the trees thrive in poor soil, putting down deep roots in search of moisture and nutrients. Southern Portugal's region meets all of these requirements, which explains why, by the early 20th century, this region had become world's largest producer of coke, and why today it counts for roughly half of all coke production all around the world. Mm, Most coke forests are family owned. Many of these family businesses, and indeed many of the trees themselves, are around 200 years old. Coke production is above all an exercise in patience. From the planting of a coke sapling, sapling
Sapling.
sapling to the first harvest takes 25 years, and the gap of approximately a decade must separate harvest from an individual tree. And for top quality coke, it's necessary to wait for the 12 to 20 years. You even have to wait for the right kind of summer's day to harvest coke. If the bark is stripped on a day when it's too cold or when the air is damp, the tree will be damaged. Coke harvesting is a very specialized profession. No mechanical means of stripping coke bark has been invented. So the job is done by teams of highly skilled workers. First, they make vertical cuts down the bark using small sharp axes, then lever it away in pieces as large as they can manage. The most skillful cock strippers prise away a semicircular husk that runs the length of the trunk from just above ground level to the first branches. It's then dried. It's then dried on the ground for about 4 months before being taken to factories, where it is boiled to kill any insects that might remain in the cock. It is then dried on the ground for about 4 months before being taken to factories, where it is boiled to kill any insects that might remain in the cock. Over 60% of the cock then goes on to be made into traditional bottle stoppers, with most of the remainder being used in the construction trade. A corkboard and the cocktails are ideal for thermal and acoustic isolation. Thermal and acoustic isolation. Mm, isolation. While granules of cork are used in the manufacture of concrete, recent years have seen the end of the virtual monopoly of cork as the material for bottle stoppers. Recent years have seen the end of the virtual monopoly Recent years have seen the end of the virtual monopoly of cork as a material for bottle stoppers due to concerns about the effect it may have on the contents of the bottle. This is caused by a chemical compound called which forms through the interaction of plant phenols, chlorine, and mold. The tiniest concentrations, as little as 3 or 4 parts to a trillion, can spoil the taste of the product content in the bottle. The result has been a gradual yet steady move first towards plastic stoppers and more recently to aluminum screw caps. These substitutes are cheaper to manufacture and, in the case of screw caps, more convenient for the user. Um, the classic cork stopper does have several advantages, however. Mm, Firstly, its traditional image is more in keeping with that of the type of high quality goods with which it has long been associated. Firstly, its traditional image is more in keeping is more keeping is more in keeping with that of the type of uh, with that of the type of high quality goods with which it has long been associated. First, its traditional image is more in keeping with that of the type of high quality goods. Um, it's more in keeping with that of the type of the type of high quality goods with which it has long been associated. Firstly, its traditional image is more in keeping with that of the type of high quality goods with which it has long been associated. Secondly, and very importantly, cork is a sustainable product that can be recycled without difficulty. Moreover, cork forests are resources which support local biodiversity and prevent desert, desertification in the regions where they are planted. So, given the current concerns about environment issues, the future of this ancient material once again looks promising. Passage 2: Collecting as a hobby. Collecting must be one of the most varied of human activity, and it's one that many of us psychologists find fascinating. Many forms of collecting have been dignified with a technical name. An arch-tophilist collects teddy bears. A philatelist collects postage stamps, and the delciologist collects postcards. Amassing hundreds of or even thousands of postcards, chocolate wrappers, or whatever takes time, energy, and money that could surely be put to much more productive use. And yet there are millions of collectors around the world. Why do they do it? There are the people who collect because they want to make money. This could be called an instrumental reason for collecting, that is, collecting as a means to an end. They will look for, say, antiques that they can buy cheaply and expect to be able to sell at profit. But there may well be but there may well be a psychological element to buying cheap and selling dear can give the collector a sense of triumph. And as selling online is so easy, more and more people are joining in. Many collectors collect to develop their social life, attending meetings of a group of collectors and exchanging information on items. This is a variant join a bridge club or a gym, and similarly brings them into contact with like-minded people. Another motive for collecting is a desire to find something special or particular example of the collected item. such as a rare early recording by a particular singer. Some may spend their whole life in a hunt for this. Psychologically, this can give a purpose to a life that otherwise feels aimless. There is a danger, though, that if the individual is ever lucky enough to find what they are looking for, rather than celebrating their success, they may feel empty now that the goal that drove them on has gone. If you think about collecting postage stamps, another potential reason for it, or perhaps a result of collecting, is its educational value. Stamp collecting opens a window to other countries and to the plants, animals, or famous people shown on their stamps. Similarly, in the 19th century, many collectors amassed fossils, animals, and plants from around the globe, and their collections provided a vast amount of information about the natural world. Without those collections, our understanding would be greatly inferior to what it is in the past and nowadays too, though to a lesser extent. A popular form of collecting, particularly among boys and men, was transporting. This might involve trying to see every locomotive of particular type. Mm, locomotive, locomotive. 车头有动力产生运动的机车。Locomotive, every locomotive, uh, every locomotive of a particular type, using published data, um, using published data that identifies each other, and taking off each engine as its same, taking off each engine as its thing. Transporters exchange information these days often by mobile phone, so they can work out where to go to see a particular engine. As a byproduct, many practitioners of the hobby become very knowledgeable about railway operations or the technical specifications of different engine types. Similarly, people who collect dolls may go beyond simply enlarging their collection and develop an interest in the way that dolls are made or the materials that are used. These have changed over the centuries from the wood that was standard in the 16th century Europe through the wax and porcelain of later centuries to the plastics of today's dolls. Or collectors might be inspired to study how dolls uh, reflect notions of what children like or ought to like. Mm, Not all collectors are interested in learning from their hobby, though, so what we might call a psychological reason for collecting is the end of for a sense of control, perhaps as a way of dealing with insecurity. Stamp collectors, for instance, arrange their stamps in albums, usually very neatly, organizing their collection according to certain commonplace principles, perhaps by country in alphabetical. alphabetical alphabetical order alphabetical alphabetical order or grouping maps stamps by what they depict, people, birds, maps, and so on. One reason, conscious or not, for what someone chooses to collect is to show the collector's individualism. Someone who decided to collect something as unexpected as dark colors, for instance, may be conveying their beliefs that they must be interesting themselves. And believe it or not, there's at least one dark color museum in existence, and it grew out of a personal collection. Of course, all hobbies um, give pleasure, but the common factor in collecting is usually passion. Pleasure is putting it far too mildly. More than most other hobbies, collecting can be totally engrossing and can give a strong sense of personal fulfillment. Um, to non-collectors, it may appear an eccentric, if harmless, way of spending time, but potentially collecting has a lot going for it. What's passage three? What's the purpose of gaining? I would found an institution where any person can find instruction in any subject. That was the founder's motto for Cornell University, and it seems an apt characterization of the different university also in the USA, where I currently teach philosophy. A student can prepare for a career in resort management, um, engineering, interior design, accounting, music, law enforcement, you name it. But what would the founders of these two institutions have thought of a course called Arson for Profit? I kid you not. We have it on the books. Any undergraduates who have met the academic requirements can sign up for the course in our program in fire science. Naturally, the course is intended for prospective arson investigators who can learn for prospective arson investigators who can learn all the tricks of the trade for detecting whether a fire was deliberately set, discovering who did it, and establishing a chain of evidence for effective prosecution in a court of law. But wouldn't this also be the perfect course for prospective arsonists to sign up for? My point is not to criticize academic programs in fire science. They are highly welcome as part of the increasing professionalization of these and many other occupations. Mm, However, it's not unknown for a firefighter to touch a building. This example suggests how dishonest and illegal behavior, with the help of higher education, can This example suggests how dishonest and illegal behavior with the help of higher education can creep into every aspect of public and business life. I realized this anew when I was invited to speak before a class in marketing, which is another of our degree programs. The regular instructor is a colleague who appreciates the kind of ethical perspective I can bring as a philosopher. There are endless ways I could have approached this assignment, but I took my cue from the title of the course, Principles of Marketing. It made me think to ask the students, is marketing principled? After all, a subject matter can have principles in the sense of being codified, having rules, as with football or chess, without being principled in the sense of being ethical. Many of the students immediately assumed that the answer to my question about marketing principles was obvious. No, just look at the ways in which everything under the sun has been marketed. Obviously, it need not be done in a principled, ethical fashion. Is that obvious? I made the suggestion, which may sound downright crazy in light of the evidence, that perhaps marketing is by definition principled. My inspiration for this judgment is the philosopher Immanuel Kant, who argued that any body of knowledge consists of an end or purpose and a means. Let us apply both terms means and end to marketing. The students have signed up for a course in order to learn how to market effectively. But to what end? There seem to be two main attitudes toward that question. One is that answer is obvious. The purpose of marketing is to sell things and to make money. The other attitude is that purpose of marketing is irrelevant. Each person comes to the program and the course with his or her own plans, and they need not even concern the acquisition of marketing expertise as such. My proposal, which I believe would also be Kant's, is that neither of these attitudes captures the significance of the end to the means. For marketing, a field of knowledge or professional endeavor is defined by both the means and the end. Hence, both deserve scrutiny. Students need to study both how to achieve X and also what X is. It is at this point that arson for profit becomes supremely relevant. The course is presumably all about means, how to detect and prosecute criminal activity. It is therefore assumed that the end is good in ethical things. When I ask fire science students to articulate the end or purpose of their field, they eventually generalize to something like the safety and welfare of society, which seems right. As we have seen, someone could use the very same knowledge of means to achieve a much less noble end, such as personal profit via destructive, dangerous, reckless activity. But we would not call that firefighting. We have a separate word for it, arson. Similarly, if you employ the principles of marketing in a principled way, you would not be doing marketing. We have another term for it, fraud. Kant gives the example of a doctor and poisoner who used identical knowledge to achieve their divergent ends. We would say that one is practicing medicine, the other murder.